Okay. And Hari Om. Share the screen now. Okay. All right. So the one good thing is I figured out a way to do an infinity scroll so that I don't lose the page. This allows you to track from one page to the other without actually skipping pages or jumping pages. So that helps. Um, I think Anand Bhai and Sumanji, you are the regulars, so one of you can start reading. Let's go. Let's go with Anand Bhai since he's here.
Freedom from being wanting person. That I want Artha and Kama reveals that I am an insecure and unhappy person from two different standpoints. What do I really want? Do I want the actual Artha and Kama, the objects themselves, or do I want security and happiness? Because I want security and happiness, all Arthas and Kamas are reduced to security and happiness alone. If I'm insecure, I naturally seek security, and if I'm unhappy, I seek happiness. However, it is not the security itself that I want. What I really want is freedom from insecurity. In terms of security, I am wanting. In terms of fullness and happiness, also, I am wanting. Therefore, I want freedom from being a wanting person, and in order to be free from being a wanting person, I have to see myself as secure. I have to see myself as one who does not lack anything, and I can see myself in this way alone when I have no sense of lack. If I am insecure and unhappy, and I see myself as secure and happy because of some kind of self hypnotism, for instance, then I am under yet another delusion. It is better to be insecure than to be deluded to thinking that I am secure. If I know I am insecure, then at least I can be objective and thereby understand my problem.
Okay, so we'll take a brief pause here because I guess this is an open question, really, right? Why does it say that being deluded is worse than being insecure? Because let's say if you're deluded and you're happy with your delusion, what's the problem? It's a good question, right? Like, what's the problem if you're happy being deluded? You're living your life, you're smiling.
But at the end of the day, it's delusion now, Prashant.
True, but if we say that, one of the goals of moksha is this unimpeded fullness, so you won't stay happy because it's like a bubble that's waiting to be pricked. Someday that delusion is going to go, and the longer a delusion lasts, the greater is the pain that one will experience. And oh my god, I actually wasted my life. If you're deluded for a day or 2 days or 3 days, it's not a big deal. Imagine you're deluded for like half a life, and suddenly somebody pricks a bubble. Your whole life is wasted. The longer a delusion lasts, the greater is the fall. And so it's better to recognize one's insecurities earlier on. All of us have insecurities in different domains, and like I think one of the most liberating, relatively, not Vedantically, but liberating, relatively speaking, things that I know how vulnerable I am in terms of. Okay, so folks, I just keep giving the same. I'm sort of. Please turn your webcams on if you haven't already. It shouldn't be like a weekly reminder. I just wish we do this from the get go, please. Okay, so um, I forget where I was.
You were you're talking about it's the bubble that is waiting to be pricked.
Yeah,
And the
because
law.
uh, because what happens is that once one is insecure, want uh, freedom from it. You want to get out of that zone of pain and suffering, and so you do something about it. But in Vedanta also, like I mean, this is something I can't. I've lost track of how many people have Aham Brahmasmi as a status message, right? Like on WhatsApp or like their Facebook or whatever it may be. It's ridiculous. You can't, especially, see, here's the thing. If you're Brahman, which obviously we are all Ishvara's, manifestation at the Jiva level, but our Satya, our truth, our Astitva is in Sat Swarupa itself. But Sat Swarupa doesn't come and announce itself, that if that makes sense. A great Mahatma, a great Jnani is not going to say that, oh, I am a Jnani, I am Brahman, I am this, I am that. They may unfold it in a certain manner, and you know when that unfolding is for the education of a student, for transmitting the message of Vedanta to a student. But oftentimes, if that thing is done with the intention of, oh, I'm studying Vedanta, therefore now I'm Brahman, that itself is a delusion. And it's not a delusion because it is untrue. It's a delusion because one has jumped to the last station without actually having crossed multiple other stations along the way. And this is not to say that, Vedanta is a journey from untruth to truth. It's not. The truth is evident here and now. But the journey is at the level of the adhikari. The adhikari is the one who is embarking on the journey, not that the teaching somehow evolves. And what I mean to say by that is that today, if you take science, take physics as an example, right? So, well, yeah. So when you go to school, you're taught this very basic atomic model, which is like a solar system. Sun is at the center, planets are orbiting the sun, and then you be like, oh, that's what an atom is, right? But you obviously you can't talk about probability waves and Schrodinger's equation, and you can't talk about like uncertainty principles and other things because it's not meaningful to explain it in that manner to a child. And so there is a certain paddhati and a krama that one has to undergo to study science or any subject, like mathematics also. Like, I mean, I often ask, people this very basic question, like adults, because when they are teaching children mathematics, I'll be like, what is a number? It sounds very stupid, right? I mean, this is like a question that a child will ask, but very few people actually have the answer to that. What is a number? And then, it's just very interesting to see all sorts of responses you have to that. So if you see any subject matter in the world, there's a nice, uh, I was listening to one scientist. It's like 5 levels of explaining a concept to different people at 5 different levels. So the first, thing you'll explain to somebody in elementary school, or even before that perhaps. Then you'll explain something to a person in high school. Then somebody who has a college degree, somebody who's a PhD, and then somebody who's a world-class renowned expert. And it's beautiful how that topic, is stitched together in a way that sounds familiar to everybody. Everybody gets a glimpse of what it is that's being spoken about, but at the same time, none of them are true in themselves because they are only partial truths until you actually get to the quote unquote final level. Though, as we'll discover, all of that is also partial truth only. But anyway, like when it comes to Vedanta, it is not like that. In sadhana, it is that you incrementally rise. Okay, your sadhana gets more difficult. Your guru may initiate you in certain forms of japa, and then that will sort of build on from there, and you might do some more complex things. But Vedanta, that you are Brahman is the start of your journey. That your Brahman is the end of your journey, and there's nothing else in between. It's just the deep appreciation of this fact, through every moment that one lives life. So then, like, what is this delusion that I speak about? That, isn't it appropriate when people, like, may say, oh, I am Brahman and this and that? It's not, because sometimes you can fake it to make it. Puja Swamiji likes to use that expression in the context of Nidharasana, especially, right? That, okay, a lot of people are like, okay, I don't feel quite compassionate today. And so, okay, fake compassion. You want to say something mean to somebody, say something nice, and then slowly, steadily, that desire to be mean or to be really sour about it will just wear away. He gives a very nice example in one of his books. He's like, okay, one person said, oh, I dislike my coworker, I despise my coworker. So then Puja Swamiji said, okay, go and give this person a flower, right? So again, it's like a thought experiment that, okay, so the person say, oh, how can I do that? It's going to be so awkward. We don't have a good working relationship, and you just ask me to go and give that person a flower. So you say, yeah, do it. And so then, okay, this person gives a flower the first day, and it's very awkward because there's, they're both very cold towards one another. But obviously, when a person comes and approaches you like with a smile, as fake as it looks, but then there's a flower in hand, okay, here, take this, and then they give it and they leave. And then it's very awkward because of the person receiving it is feeling as weird as the person who's giving it. But then you go the next day and you repeat that process, and it gets a little easier, and it gets a little easier. The third day, that person you're giving a flower to will break into a smile also, right? Feel like, okay, very sweet, very sweet. And fourth, fifth day, then you'll become friends. You don't even have to say a single word. So, I mean, Puja Samji is not telling one to do that, but he's just giving an example that after a point, that awkwardness or that the coldness starts melting, and you start thawing as a person and towards other people. So if you don't feel compassionate, fake it to make it, and then ultimately that compassion will start shining. You won't get worse over time; you'll get better with time when you try to imbibe the right values. But when it comes to Vedanta also, really, and it depends upon one's level of maturity. If that maturity is there, and who is to say what person is mature and what person isn't, because that's ultimately up to a guru to assess, or somebody who's mentoring a person or whatever it may be. It's somebody in a position of authority who has been vested that authority wholeheartedly and willingly by the person who is seeking feedback. So in these instances, yes, a person may be in a good position to be able to make suggestions, but typically one doesn't know, and we treat everybody as a sadhaka who's work in progress. But sometimes, if that distance, and I'm talking about a distance not in physical uh, uh, metrics, but more in terms of how distanced one is from the cultivation of the sadhana chatushtaya, as well as a clear cut understanding of the teaching. If there is a gap over there, this knowledge based gap and this values based gap, then sometimes faking it to make it backfires, because then you will live in that limbo state. It's like, again, like movie reference, Inception. You're stuck in that dream, and it's a very pleasant dream, and now you don't have the jignasa, the desire to know the truth, that okay, is this just a dream world that I'm stuck in, or is there something else to it, right? And so sometimes if you're just stuck in that delusion, then you don't question yourself, and you don't find scope for self improvement at that fundamental functional level, before which Vedanta can actually start making sense. And so it's almost like paradoxical, because the one who's a jnani will never announce oneself as a jnani, and the one who is not a jnani who announces themselves as a jnani are a short way to figure out that the person is not a jnani. And so all of these conditionings really get in the way, and that's why at some point in life, like as Vasu also pointed out, that when that bubble bursts, and when it dawns upon oneself that, oh my god, oh crap, what have I been doing? My whole life is wasted. I've been living in this bubble, and this was like a dream world, and now it's all collapsing and the sky is falling. Oh my god. And a lot of times, and not always, but a lot of times, people come to some maturity and understanding in their middle years. So that's what you typically call a midlife crisis. But depending on what causes the crisis, if it's a bad spouse, then you're in trouble. Sorry, can't do anything about it. But if it is just this sense of feeling burdened by responsibilities, and life just seems difficult, and you have so many things to take care of, because you're in that sandwich generation, right? And sandwich because you're stuck between the ones above and the ones below. You have to take care of your children, and then you have to take care of your aging parents. And there's that ripe age when you'll have to change both of the diapers. So it gets really difficult, right, to be able to handle that kind of scenario. And uh, it brings something out in a person. It brings, it kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone. But the middle age years are a tremendous place and opportunity for growth. In fact, I would say, I would wholeheartedly say that those who are not sannyasis truly haven't um, they haven't explored all of the potential that could be derived out of grihastha ashrama until they are in that position. So it's Ishvara's way of ensuring that we keep growing, and if our growth stalls, then Ishvara will give a kick in the behind, just so that we move forward. And it may seem like it may seem like a punishment, because a lot of times people are like, oh Ishvara, why did you do this to me? Because stupid person, you were not moving. You were exactly where you were. You were stuck in that little rut, and now this is the way to kind of get out of the comfort zone and move forward. So it's never good. Yeah, I think the most uncomfortable place to live in is in one's delusion. And the most comfortable place to be in life is to, put one foot in chaos and the other foot in order. Very Jordan Peterson-esque, right? But it's true. Um, it's also something that our shastras have, hinted at in many different ways. And what I mean by that is that if both of your feet are in the comfort zone and everything is perfect, okay, perfect. Oh, okay, I'm happy with my job. I'm happy with my place in life. I'm happy with how much Vedanta I know. I'm happy with the number of japas I'm doing every day. And then you're just like there, and and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if it's a stasis where there's no upward growth, like top and right trajectory, if that trajectory is not there, then there is something amiss. And so the way to actually find growth in life is to first find an anchor, a comfortable anchor where you can position yourself and you can plant one foot very firmly in that place. If that anchor is not anchored, and it's then you're in trouble. But find something that anchors you, right? It could be Vedanta, it could be your spouse, it could be your parents, it could be your career, whatever it may be. One place where you can show and display a lot of competence that people can sort of come to you as a subject matter expert on some subject. Then from that place, take your other foot and stretch it out in a domain that makes you feel very uncomfortable. It could be learning something new, it could be taking a risk, it could be trying something new for that matter. Whatever it may be, anything that gets you out of that rut is the place where you will find growth, because growth is not found in the comfort zone. Growth is found by expanding the comfort zone. And this is beautiful, because the jnani's comfort zone is the whole jagat. There is nothing, there is no place, there is no situation, there's no condition that can impede upon the freedom of a jnani who's a jivan mukta. And therefore, if our goal coincides with the jnani's accomplishment, which is mukti, then we should always strive to get out of the comfort zone. It's not a good place to be. Okay, sorry, I went on that delusion thing, but it's important. Um, um, Shrikantji, if you'd like to read from, I forget where. Was it here? This paragraph, right?
Mm-hmm.
Acha.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah. Thus, one has to be secure in order to see oneself as secure. To be able to say, I am happy, one has to be happy to understand the happiness we talk about. I can therefore see myself as secure and happy either by becoming so or by already being so. I'm using two different words here, becoming and being, for a reason. We generally see ourselves as insecure and unhappy and then try to become secure and happy. The whole process of living, the struggles in our lives are all a process of becoming. Being insecure, we seek to become secure. In the final analysis, people are all after the same thing. One may seek this and that, but over the shoulders of seemingly different ends, we see two common ends, being secure and being happy. My hope is that one day I will become secure, that one day I'll become happy. Therefore, even when we are seeking artha and kama, we are all seeking freedom from being insecure and unhappy. This must be clearly understood.
Okay. Any questions so far? Okay.
Is this why moksha is seen as the meta purushartha?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It is a presupposed purushartha under all purusharthas. And that recognition makes one a mumukshu. It's very beautiful. Like, a lot of people may consider themselves mumukshus, but it's like saying that, oh, I'm flying to New York, or I'm flying to Toronto, or wherever, without actually knowing what direction it is. And so, one thing that I've really seen and it may sound like I'm often being critical, but it's more like, no, I'm just calling out pitfalls, because as a sadhaka, I've been through so many myself. And I still continue to, like, stub my toe in different places. I guess I learn and then I share what I've learned. And so one of the most beautiful, like when people say that, oh, there are multiple ways to moksha, arey, why first define moksha? People say, oh, you can get it through karma also, you can get it through this also. Arey, if the thing that you're trying to attain has not even been clearly defined, much as understood, then are you truly attaining that thing? Are you truly pursuing that thing, or are you just, uh, again, it goes back to the delusion. So, in order to be a mumukshu, one has to see clearly that whatever it is that I do in life is only for the sake of this fullness that I am. The moment one creates a bifurcation between moksha versus other purusharthas, that, oh, enough for moksha today, I think. Now let me go do some artha and kama. Let me go watch a movie, because somehow that is diametrically opposed to moksha. It's not. You can watch a movie also as a sadhana if you're truly watching the movie as a sadhana, not as a kamya karma. And there are ways to do that. I think, Srikanji, you and I, we've definitely discussed this extensively, but I guess our movie experiences are sometimes religious experiences. The way we derive so much out of it. In fact, one day, if everybody is willing, I can do a complete session on the Lion King. It will be very interesting. It will be fun. And I can easily discuss it for 2 hours. I don't know if Nikita has been on that session. This was almost 7 years ago. No. Okay, we'll do a repeat of that. There's so much to learn in the Lion King about dharma, and to some degree, if you interpret it right, moksha also. There's another movie that we could put a dharmic perspective on, Dead Poets Society. If I get into Lord of the Rings, both Shikanji and I are going to give a series of talks on that if it gets to Lord of the Rings. And one of the best films I've ever watched. It's called A Man for All Seasons. I don't recommend it to people who don't have a firm hold over Sanatana Dharma. But if a person has, wishes to cultivate a dharmic approach towards life, I say, it's definitely a good one. Anyway, I digress. Nikita, if you'd like to read now. And sorry, before you start, I just want to give a quick, I guess, quick apology that I may have to head out in another 15 minutes, perhaps not. But if I do, then please know why. So, in case she's really exhausted, she'll come to me and then I'll have to leave. But yeah, please continue.
Prashant, you broke up for most of that, but I think we understood that you may have to leave in 15 minutes.
Yes, but potentially, because Unnati is out on a conference and I have to put Ambika to bed.
Okay.
Oh, Nikita's mic's not coming on. Sumanji, you can go.
Sure. Moksha is the end in life. Given that everyone wants freedom from being a wanting person, everyone wants moksha. When it is put in this way, it looks as though moksha is just another end. In fact, it is not another end. It is the end behind all ends. We refer to moksha as another end, another purushartha, only because people do not recognize it as only end, even though they seek freedom from insecurity. Recognizing this end is the culmination of one's life, the end of samsara, insecurities, and unhappiness. The culmination of one's life is not aging. It is the ability to discern yourself as one who is secure and happy. This discerning is part of growing up. Once the fact that you are secure and happy has been discerned, even though you may continue in your various artha and kama pursuits, you have taken the necessary step for moksha. However small the step has been made. Having stepped into this teaching, the necessary step has been taken. You shouldn't be alarmed by the word moksha. You need not worry about what will happen to your family if you study and become enlightened. Believe me, your family will be happy because they will no longer have to deal with your insecurities and unhappiness. Also, by trying to gain enlightenment, the pressure you were feeling will definitely be less because you now have something better to accomplish in life. Otherwise, life is a problem. Marriage, marriage, for example, cannot be an end in itself. If it is, there will be problems and the marriage will end. Marriage is a means, not an end, whereby husband and wife each seek freedom from insecurity. Freedom from insecurity is their common end, and they help each other. Together, as companions, they make the journey. This most significant aspect of marriage is acknowledged in the 7 steps of a Hindu marriage ceremony. Only when these 7 steps have been taken has the marriage taken place. Even of the 7 steps, each of the 7 steps represents one aspect of the couple's journey for which there is a destination.
This is
Moksha.
beautiful. Yeah, extremely beautiful. So anyway, Nikita is getting married this month. So
Oh,
something to keep in mind.
congratulations, Nikita.
Something funny happened like last few weeks back. Her anyway. No, I'll not spoil it. I'll save that for last. So what happened is there was somebody from Trinidad basically who logged in to the call, and so I'm like, oh, you're from Trinidad because I could tell from the accent. They have this sing-songy accent. Nikita, if you say something, well, people have heard her, but saying yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying that that's how people in Trinidad talk, right? Everything sounds like a song, and then you have this whole calypso music and all of that fun stuff. So anyway, so this guy showed up, right? And so I'm like, you must be from Trinidad because you sound like somebody from there, or Guyana, one of those places. I can't tell the distinction if there is one. But so then he's like, yeah, yeah. So I'm like, oh, you must be knowing Nikita. She's from there too. So he's like, oh yeah, she's my fiance. So that was hilarious. Yes.
Nice
So
way to break the news of your marriage. Yeah.
she had told me about a marriage, but I didn't know the guy. And so because I had not seen him before, and I'm sure I must have forgotten the name. So in fact, I forgot it again. What's his name? Oh, your
Mike's not
mic's
working.
not working. That's
Mike's not.
right. Okay, so but anyway, it'll be nice. They're getting married end of this month, and Andre, very
Ah,
good.
okay.
So this thing about marriage. It's I'll 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 be very blunt about it. If a lot of people have gone to different Swamijis with complaints about their spouse. Okay, and it's like, I want to study Vedanta, I want to listen to the acharyas, I want to go for a Vedanta retreat, but that person's not interested, and sometimes they don't want me to go. And after a point, that pressure starts building. I feel too guilty to go. So what should I do? And all of these questions. It's a very common question. Like usually when I'm at some retreat or the other, people tend to ask this. People have asked Paramathananji this question several times as well. If you are a very devout uh, Sanatana Dharmi, okay, it's not so much of a problem. If you are a very committed Jignasu, uh, be very selective in marriage. Be selective anyway. It doesn't matter if you're a Hindu or not. Like, being selective is a good thing, but especially if you are pursuing this and this is your ultimate goal. I'm not saying the other person has to study all the shastras and listen to pravachans with you and all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that basic respect for what you do, you have that basic respect and that value for it. The value, not just that. Okay, look, I don't care about it, but I give you the right to do it. You have the freedom to do what you want. That is not a very good approach, because what will happen is that in the beginning you will feel that I think why should I care? This person's good with it, and they have no objection to me studying these things. So then that person doesn't have to have an interest. What will happen, because we are all compassionate human beings, and over time, in a few days, weeks, months, years, you will get attached to the spouse and their value system and their lifestyle and their choices, and there will be some rub off. I have seen that. I have known that to be true in many cases. Things will start rubbing off, and it will take a while before you realize that I've become a little bit like them and they've become a little bit like me, right? And not just that, but suppose the other person's personality is a little stronger and you tend to become a bit more like them. and they are not into these things, that's an even greater issue. And in the third case would be that, okay, if the person's not interested and they consistently stay away from these things, but you engage in it, after a point, because we are good people, because we are nice people, a sense of guilt will start taking over, and we'll begin to make excuses to not do these things. But those excuses are really stemming from a sort of an implicit desire not to displease the other person, right? And it's not very conscious, but it's like an unconscious desire, and so that could be another possibility. And the fourth one is just that, assuming that the person's still okay after a number of years, and I've seen that also, that sometimes they have no problem, you go for the satsanga, you do these things, I'm not interested. But then, as a sadhaka, personally, I would ask a question that, I'm just trying to figure out why I got married in the first place. Because if my goal of marriage, as the Saptapadis indicate, if that goal is not mukti, if it is not, this adhyatmic pravritti, and also ultimately nivritti, then what am I doing in this institution of marriage? Have I gotten married only because I have a milestone to check off in life, that, oh, I just graduated, check. Oh, I got married, check. I have had children, check. I'm dead, check. Somebody else will check that for you. But like all of these things, is that the purpose of life? And I know some brilliant people whom I admire, who are so dedicated, and then they've decided that, until they find the right person, the right partner to with whom they can grow together in this end, they are not very intent on marriage, though they are very marriageable themselves and they've had many suitors and such. So, again, like, it is best that Hindus find fellow Hindus who are equally, or at least somewhat roughly committed to similar goals. And if not, then at least, the basic requirement, should be that there should be Ishvara Bhakti. It doesn't matter if the person studies the Upanishads. It doesn't matter if the person doesn't understand or doesn't even want to study Vedanta. What should be a deal breaker by all means is if the person is rejecting Ishvara, this Gnostic type person, or somebody who says, "Oh, I'm a dead, devout atheist," or whatever it may be. Because see, ultimately, there's a conceit and there's a great deal of arrogance that comes with a, a person thinking that they are in charge of their own life and in charge of their own reality. Whereas our attitude is always that, we bow down to Ishvara, because Ishvara is both the giver and the given. Isha Vasimidam Sarvam, whatever is there is Ishvara, and Ishvara alone is. And that sense of gratitude that one has, it carries over into many other areas and aspects of life. Because life is not disconnected, but it is an interconnected series of experiences, and these values spill over into every domain of married life and partnership and whatever else it may be. And that will also determine the values with which your children will be raised. Because if there's a conflict, but like, I guess I can be a bit vague without giving names, but there's a Hindu that I know, who was interested in somebody who was like, okay, that doesn't matter, like, you can do anything, would also eat beef for that matter, and was not at all into Sanatana Dharma. In fact, found it very regressive. This person was, they were like college lovers, and they got together, but the reasons were completely wrong. And after a point, the person started actually raising objections that, okay, if we have children, then I don't want them to go to the mandir regularly, or if they go to the mandir, they should only go once a week. And all of these if or stipulations started being put into place. Then after a point, they started drifting apart. And then at one point, I just advised the person that, why do you want a slow and painful death? Just end it. And I don't typically tell people to end a relationship, but this was getting to the point where both of their views were so, they were poles apart. And the only thing that was holding, one thing that should never hold a person in a relationship, is what the past was like. If, I have this very basic template that I ask people. I'm like, if that person that you wish to be with, suppose you met them today for the first time, would you decide to be with them forever? And if the answer to that is no, it doesn't matter what your last 2 or 3 or 4 years look like. Because what matters is the present, which will be the foundation for the future, not the past, because the past is just an attachment. But the present will give you a practical solution, that if I met you the first time on a dating site, or if I met you for the first time in some sabha, some, matrimonial event, wherever, and we were placed together, and, we went out, on a date or whatever it may be. If you would reject the person now for what they are, and if that person would reject you now for what you are, then there is no reason to continue forward because of what the past was. So anyway, uh, I guess somewhat again unrelated, but I don't know. Any questions here on this marriage as an end? Oh, yeah, so marriage is it's a means. It's not an end. That's why it's not a checkbox. But the marriage is the enabler for grihastha. See, one of the most important things, people may be like, wait, but this is not so important, but it is important. When you have a patani as a pati, you are enabled to perform certain karmas. First of all, you are passing through those rites, right? The rites of passage. You're having vivaha samskara. Then finally this garbhadana will happen, and then jata karma will happen, and nama karma will happen, and this karma will happen, upanayam samskara will happen. All of those things are enabled because of marriage. And not only that, but uh, uh, when you offer ahutis, when you perform the agnihotra karma and all of these things, you need to be a householder for those things. The wife's drishti has to fall upon the instruments of the ritual before the ritual is sanctified and before the husband is even permitted to do it. So it's very beautiful that way, because over here what it's signifying is that the whole of marriage is not a marriage. It's not a institution per se, but rather it is a yajna. And the whole married life is one long yajna that is lasting for a number of decades, and you are constantly offering ahuti into this tree of dharma, into the cosmic wheel of dharma, and you're keeping that cosmic chakra going through this institution. So that is the motivation for a Hindu to get married, not just that, oh, yes. I don't know, it's not something that you'll find on Tinder. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not the right place to look for a dharmi, personally, unless that person there is also, I'm not dismissing the platform. I'm just saying it shouldn't be seen from the Western lens, marriage. Okay. Any questions? Any other unrelated topics, questions that you'd like to discuss, or should we continue reading for the next few minutes? Okay, we'll continue one or two more paragraphs. Who wants to go?
Shrikantji, you want to continue?
Sure. Where does it start? Sorry, discerning.
Was it here?
Yeah,
Yes,
discerning moksha. Yeah, sorry.
yes.
Yeah. Discerning moksha as the end in life and seeking it make one's life meaningful. They do not prevent a person from seeking artha and kama. In fact, without them, life is just a rat race. One should always remember that the truth of the rat race is that even after the race, the winning rat continues to be a rat. The vision is now clear. Freedom is seeing myself as a secure and happy person, free from being insecure and unhappy. The whole struggle in life stems only from insecurity and unhappiness. One thinks that by adding some security, one will become secure. In this way, life is one of becoming, and in the process, one becomes hurt, aged, and has all kinds of things happen to him or her. If the fundamental problem is not discerned, one's life is wasted. All that is achieved is that one human life has been spent. The good thing about all of this is that the Veda says you always have another chance, and another and another. While this may provide some satisfaction, it is not a solution to the fundamental problem.
So that throws YOLO for a toss, right? Because I mean, like, I have a few pet peeves, and one of them is when Hindus say YOLO. It's like, what have you studied, man? What have you done with your life? It's like, It's just one of those things that you throw about without thinking much. But there's a pro and con to this understanding. I'm not saying it's a fact is a fact. The fact that you're going to take birth again, all of us are, this is not our first life. We've been here forever and ever, in this sort of cycle of birth and death. It's a fact. It's not a preference. It's a fact. But the a person understands it through different layers of maturity. See, for one person, suppose you do this whole Abrahamic thing that, oh, this is the only life, and whatever happens in this life will determine, uh, outcome forever and more, right? It's like eternal heaven or eternal hell. Those are the only two options that one has. That can do two things. Again, it's like, if you're a mature person, you'll probably live the best possible life that you can, because you know that you're not going to come back again, right? So, I mean, that's one way to look at it, and the other is that it just puts a lot of guilt and fear in oneself, because suppose like you screwed up, and you screwed up big in life, and you're like, old enough to the point where you can't reverse a lot of harm that has been done. How are you going to live the rest of your life knowing that I can never, never, never be fit for that eternal heaven that is supposed to be awaiting for me, and now I'm going to go to the depths of hell instead? Like, that could break you. It could destroy you. Whatever remains of your life. So this sense of guilt and fear that comes from a life of like eternal torment and suffering is a terrible price to pay as a follower of, like, some of these Abrahamic faiths. But on the flip side, even Hindus, if one is again, I have to stop using you, but it's more like, if one is complacent, then if one is introduced to the idea that, okay, you come back, you will come back as a cockroach, you'll come back as a human, you'll come back as a tree, you'll come back as a dog, whatever. This is not the beginning, this is not the end. It goes on forever and ever and ever, and you'll always have one more shot. It's kind of like one more shot at the goal, one more shot at the goal. That can also make one regress in life, because then they'll be like, see, okay, let me gratify myself in the present, because I always have a good bright future to look out for. But the thing is that the present is what sows the seeds for the future, and if we don't utilize our current time that's been given to us, this is one thing that we can't buy. Time is the only thing that you can't um, negotiate. It's a given, and it just keeps ticking forward. But if we waste oh my goodness, come on. Yeah, she's been at the door for a while, poor little thing.
Oh,
Yeah, so if we keep wasting the present, then there's no hope for the future.
come here.
So yeah, you bring your little laddu. Okay, so wait, I'll stop the screen share just a second.
Hey, little. Remind me her name again, Prashant.
Ambika, see,
Oh
laddu
my
doggy.
god! Oh my god, she's so cute.
Okay,
Hi,
do
Ambika.
doggy
See?
chair. Okay. Now sit down quietly. I'll come in 5 minutes. Okay. So, so, the other thing is that a Hindu may see this as a positive also, which is that, look, I understand that I have many, many, many shots to accomplish my goal in life. But whatever I do right now is going to take me a step closer to my goal. But if I give in to inaction, as Bhagavan says in the Gita, that inaction is infinitely worse than action, even of a poor kind. It's like do poorly, but at least do something. Because inaction actually is action. Inaction is not action. Akarma is also karma, and karma's, to see karma and akarma and karma is wisdom. But this akarma that we talk about is that, okay, suppose somebody says, I have to do something, but I don't do it. The choice, the volition that one exercises by saying, I will not do it, is actually an action. So there is no such thing as non-action, because even if I sit in one place, it's an action. If I walk, it's also an action. If I still my mind, it's an action. If there's a lot of movement in my mind, is also action. There is never a point in life when actions are not being performed, and therefore act so that through actions you can grow. But through inaction you can only keep receding. It's kind of like standing in quicksanding, allowing it to just I guess overtake you, and just bury you in its depths. So, when it comes to a lot of people say that, see, one of the reasons the Hindu growth rate, right? I think Srikanji and others, you might have heard of this expression, the Hindu growth rate, that was used pejoratively, which is to say that India did not grow very well after post independence due to a variety of factors, because we were just handed a very bad hand to play with. We weren't dealt the right cards, and so there was so much that we had to uh, sort of build a foundation on our own as a country. But now India is ahead of the curve, right? It's got one of the highest growth rates. US is like what? We are hovering around zero at this point, whereas India is like 6 to 7% easily. So this, the pejorative used, and the I guess the accusation was that Hindus don't believe in life after death, in the sense of an eternal life after death, but they believe in life after life after life, and therefore they are always going to be complacent. They're always going to be lazy. They will always be in this jugaad culture. They will always try to sort of live that life of stasis as opposed to of growth and responsibility. But that is not true. But I also hate to say, but in some cases it can also be true. So there is some truth to it, but it it should not alter the fact that we have a responsibility towards ourselves. And there's an expression called teleology in philosophy, which means that uh, life as it is intended, the universe and the cosmic evolution as it is intended, goes towards an end goal. It's sort of like all moves towards an end goal. This may not be too true in cosmological terms entirely, though there is some truth to it, and we can get to that later. But it is certainly true in terms of human terms, in terms of the Purushata, because teleologically speaking, the goal of human life is to know oneself. Human life is not happenstance. It is not something that just arrived, out of the blue because of some accident in the quantum foam that caused a great big bang in this, cosmic framework. It's not that. It is all well planned. It is well orchestrated. It is well put together. It is Samskrita in that sense, that it is this universe is well put together. It is assembled. It is a manifestation of Ishvara, and the teleology is for every single aspect of the universe to come back to Ishvara by recognizing its own true nature. And so if a person has this teleological mindset that yes, moksha is not an option, it is not a nice to have, it's not a TK, when I have time I'll do it, but it is the very goal of human life. And so, when we tout like, okay, all four purusharthas are the goals of human life, it is a wrong expression. The four purusharthas should not be seen or translated as the goals of human lives, but rather it should be presented as the varieties of actions that human beings pursue. But the goal of human life is actually only moksha. So this is something very important to recognize. Any thoughts or questions on this? No? Okay, good.
Prashant,
Ah,
do you want to sign off a bit early? It's almost 10:30.
I
She
should.
needs to sleep.
She needs to.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I'll
Bye.
take a bye card.
Bye. That this
Wait,
is good night.
say good night
Sleep.
to Jyotika. She's shy. She's shy.
Night. All right.
Okay, wonderful. See you all next week. Okay, Hari Om.
All
Great session. Om.
right.